and welcome to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. In this podcast, we discuss mystical works of literature and how they relate to recovery. We hope you enjoy today's podcast episode.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. Today, we have Marla and Amy and Craig. Y'all keep me on track today. I don't know if you can hear it, but somebody's doing work in the house behind me, and it sounds like I'm at the Mexican restaurant.
Yeah. I hope they have good food.
I know, it's just making me hungry. I'm wanting some Mexican food. I can hear the music, you know. How deep is the Tao? You want to read this for us, Marla? Do you mind, ma'am?
Nope. How deep is Tao? My master said, Tao, how deep? How still its hiding place. Tao, how pure. Without it, this stillness, metal would not ring. Stone when struck would give no answer. The power of sound is in the metal and Tao in all things. When they clash, they ring with Tao and are silent again. Who is there now to tell all things their places? The king of life goes his way free, inactive, unknown. He would blush to be in business. He keeps his deep roots down in the origin, down in the spring. His knowledge is enfolded in spirit, and he grows great, opens a great heart, a world's refuge. Without forethought, he comes out in majesty. Without plan, he goes his way, and all things follow him. This is the kingly man who rides above life. This one sees in the dark, hears when there's no sound. In the deep dark, he alone sees light. In soundlessness, he alone perceives music. He can go down into the lowest of low places and find people. He can stand in the highest of high places and see meaning. He is in contact with all beings. That which is not goes his way. That which moves is what he stands on. Great is small for him, long is short for him, and all his distances are near.
Don't you like the way that Chuang Tzu seems to go about describing what it's like to walk in what Lao Tzu wrote?
Yeah, that's like it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. You had some thoughts, Marla? They still with you?
Yeah, but I'm a little verklempt at the moment.
Okay. Comments, anyone? How still? It's like the Tao is found in the stillness. Without this stillness, metal would not ring.
That's true. You can't hear sound if you can't hear the silence first.
It's like the Tao is the stillness.
Mm-hmm.
Stone, when struck, would give no answer if it was not for the Tao. It's interesting. The sound, the power of sound is in the metal. The power of sound was not the Tao, but the Tao is in all things. So it's as if the Tao uses the power of the metal.
I kind of thought that too.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me.
It's the Wu Wei idea, that effortless effort idea. Mm-hmm. And he talks more about that later on. The king of life, I think, is going on with that thought from last week of the kingly man, which anyone listening, if you did not listen to that podcast, I would highly recommend it. That may be one of the best ones we've had.
I should go back and listen. I hate hearing myself.
I was in the same way, Marla, but Craig told me one time, he says, you need to go back and listen. And I started doing that, and I get so much out of it. I'm sorry I complimented Craig. He's going to chime in now, I know. Yeah, he told me, and I did it, and he was right. Craig was right.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I marked on the calendar, Craig was right. No, I only noticed it because I get distracted sometimes, and I think to myself, I missed half of that conversation, and it's good for me to go back and listen to it. But then there's so many nuggets of wisdom just drop out of it, and you think, wow, do you know what? I really did miss that. I really should start paying more attention. This one's kind of got me a bit lost. You know, my attention span's not the greatest at the best of times, but I kind of got to halfway through this and my mind started wandering. And I wonder if that's just really the opposite of what this thing's supposed to be teaching us, because it's saying that the master is rooted in the Tao. He's rooted in the way of things. He's rooted in how everything is. I don't think he's getting distracted the same as I do. Maybe he doesn't have a job to do, and maybe he doesn't have a family run around. And
are you talking about the kingly man?
Yeah, just the person that's in this verse. Yeah.
Can I? You know what I thought of finally? I think it dawned in just this brain is that the king, instead of thinking of the king as a man, it maybe think of the king as God. Is that a silly thought?
No. It doesn't seem to have any distractions. It doesn't seem to have the same sort of thing going on in life as I do.
Neither does God.
Yeah. So it's like the rest of the verses of the Tao. We always do the Tao now and this, that, and just I find it very difficult to come out of some of the meetings and then practice everything that's going on in it, because I've got so many distractions going on. And it's how do I apply what we're actually doing to my everyday life? I don't know if it's kind of like, I don't know if I'm kind of, this is the life that I'm kind of aspiring to. Is this where I want to, is this the level of enlightenment that I want to get to? That nothing phases me, nothing distracts me. I'm constantly focused on what I'm supposed to be doing rather than what everybody else is wanting me to do.
I have that same feelings. Like, is this the way I'm supposed to be? And how the hell am I supposed to get there? But it sure looks blissful.
It looks amazing.
Blissful. Yeah. I thought drugs could get me there.
I think it's about being present in more moments of the day.
Yeah. I
think that's part of this. It doesn't say the king is a man. It says the king of life.
I know, but I just in all of these is a king, but at the bottom we're the kingly man.
Well, something else too. We're all trudging this road, right? So I don't believe that I am less perfect in this moment as I will be tomorrow, or more perfect than I was yesterday. I believe I'm perfect in this moment for what I am. Okay? It's like a child lacks nothing. A normal average child lacks nothing. Has the intelligence, has the abilities, but that child has not learned yet how to drive. That doesn't mean the child's imperfect. He just hasn't learned yet. It's not time for that, okay? Or all the other things that come along as you get older. But that child is perfect for the 8-year-old, let's say, child in that moment. The child is perfect. You can't say, oh, this child's screwed up. He can't drive yet. What's wrong with this child? That would be crazy, right? But he hasn't got to that place in their life yet. So we spiritually, if we're thinking the same way, I think we're all right where we need to be, just like a child growing up is where they need to be in the moment. And what this is doing is unfolding for us so we can learn how to surrender more moments of the day. So the challenges I have in today are exactly the challenges that I need. I can approach the day without judging my day, respond how I respond, learn from those responses. And maybe if I need to respond different tomorrow, that's why we do the nightly inventory and all those things, and we keep surrendering more moments of the day as time goes on. And I've tried to just take that judgment off, all that. I try not to should on myself anymore,
Great practice.
Amy, you got something?
Yeah, I'm just, I'm looking at this sentence. When they clash, they ring with Tao and are silent again. It doesn't say if.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that means, and to Craig's point, I'm not going to be still and quiet every moment of every day, right? Things are going to happen. The world's going to happen. Life is going to happen. Personalities, right now I'm thinking specifically of personalities, are going to clash, and I'm not going to get along with people. And then, so when that happens, when they clash, they ring with Tao. So then it's my responsibility to act with kindness, to speak with kindness.
How about this, Amy? Continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong,
Yes,
promptly admitted it. When,
yes,
not if.
yes. And when these crop up, right? Selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, fear. When these crop up,
right?
It's not if, it's when. So,
and we're not imperfect when it happens. We're just human. We're just human.
Yeah.
See, we put all these judgments on ourselves to try to be perfect, and I think we have to drop all of that.
We're human.
To drop the judgment.
We begin to see that all people, including ourselves, are to some extent emotionally ill as well as frequently wrong, and then we approach true tolerance and see what real love for our fellows actually means.
Yep.
Everybody's wrong, but as Omar says,
everybody's right too.
Yeah, as Omar says, we're all fucked up, so might as well be friends with everyone.
Aren't you realizing that I used to think I was right most of the time and wrong every now and then? Now I'm wrong almost all the time and just right every now and then.
I would flip that out.
Yeah, it's flipped.
For me, I thought I was wrong all the time. Mm-hmm. Now I think sometimes I'm right.
Yeah. Well, see, that's the difference. I came from from a pride perspective, and you may have came from a self-pity from the other side.
Victim mode.
Yeah.
If I went from being right 5 minutes ago to being wrong,
then you're enlightened.
Wake up and go back to sleep, Craig.
Yeah. I think that is a very good point, in that, because I too come from ego-driven. I always need to be at the top of the heap, not at the bottom of the pile. I'm always, and I'm like, I'm a dragon sign, sun sign, all that bullshit, right? But really, it's just about look at me. And so, for me now, just as you said, buddy, to think I'm wrong the majority of the time and right, well, wrong most of the time and right some of the time, well, however you said it, is indicative of spiritual growth.
That's humility for me.
Humility, absolutely.
So for you too.
Absolutely, humility.
It's interesting that this is found in the stillness, though. That takes me to meditation, because it says that the Tao is found in the stillness. Without this stillness, just the basic things would not happen. So it's really about learning. And I was reminded actually of the Bible verse that says, "Be still and know that I am God." So even from a Christian practice, you can find the need for stillness, and where there's strength in the stillness, not in the effort or the push, but it's in the stillness where the strength is. So, Craig, my answer to you would be to ask your higher power how you can introduce more stillness into your life. Go ahead. Do you have something?
Yeah, just you talking about the Bible verse, there was another one that jumped out today, and I've heard it twice today, and it was, "Ye who are weary, come home." If you're doing so much that you're getting that much distracted, if you're coming to the stage where you're becoming a human doing rather than a human being, then we need to stop and just come back to the stillness, come back to the Tao, come back to the level of I was going to say the level of forgottenness, the childlike state where you are teachable.
I was thinking. Thank you, Craig. What are some ways that we find stillness? The pause when agitated, for sure.
The breath.
Yeah, the breath. Maybe that's what this is about. The biggest thing about this, later he talks about walking in this, but the way we do that is by acknowledging the stillness.
Mm-hmm.
Meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How else? Any other ways?
In yoga, there's certain breath practices we do where we retain the breath. And it's in that, and you like bask in that stillness of it. It only lasts a few seconds, but.
Well, with a pause, that count to 5 or count to 10 before you respond.
Yes, that's words I don't live by very often.
I have a 3-second delay on my texts and on my email. I used to use it quite often and stop it, before I sent it because I'd get pissed off and write something. Then I'd realize after I'd sent it and it would be, it'd be sending. I'd go, oh shit, I better not send that. I'd stop it. But I don't have to use it much now, but I still have it there. But that was one reason for that.
Who knew there was a feature like that?
I hunted it out. Yes.
There is actually one app that lets you unsend a message.
Well, you can also recall emails, but typically the person, has already read it or seen it. But speaking to the growth part too, and specifically emails and text, especially emails, I find it very rewarding to have several email drafts that I delete because I never actually send them because I have practiced the pause.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. Start the email and then walk away and come back. And then usually I don't have to send it. Because what is it about me? It's a spiritual axiom that anytime, that stuff.
Anytime I'm disturbed, there's something wrong with me. Right.
See, that's another level I've not achieved yet. I just send it and that's it, gone. I think the last one started with, is this the level of incompetence we have to put up with?
Okay, once we find stillness, let's look at the results of stillness.
You're getting slap happy, Craig. It's time for bed.
You haven't been in the eggnog, have you, Craig?
That's it.
My grandmother used to load the eggnog up with rum. I mean, just load it up. Or my great-grandmother, actually. She was still alive. She lived to 96, and she loved her rum eggnog. The king of life goes his way, or her way, free, inactive, unknown, would blush to be in business. In other words, no agenda, no ego present. He would be uncomfortable to be put in the spotlight. In other words, he or she.
You think that's what that line means?
That's how I think it.
Now it makes sense.
Context with everything else.
Right. Makes more sense.
Yeah, that unknown, free from themselves. Like we talked before, free to love people, free, free not to do what you desire, freedom from yourself. He keeps his deep roots down in the origin, down in the spring. So in other words, his roots are deep. His knowledge is enfolded in spirit, and he grows great, opens a great heart, a world's refuge, but yet he is unknown, inactive, and free.
Isn't that God?
Now, that's the paradox.
Isn't that God? What a God would be?
Or God in our life.
God in our life. Yeah, our higher power.
Our gods of our actions, our godly actions.
Yeah, a God of my understanding, obviously.
Yeah, or you could say our compassionate actions if you wanted to leave the God word out. You could go the compassion route. That really is compassionate action, truly compassionate action. Without forethought, he comes out in majesty. So things just unfold in his life. Without plan, he goes his way. And this is a good line. All things follow him. So things just work out. This is the kingly man who rides above life. You know, we've talked about that pendulum before of the good and the bad and the evil and the, what would that be? You got good and bad and things that are evil versus things that are, I guess, would that be good still? Anyway, you know what I'm saying. The opposite swinging, and then the power of love that would be above that pendulum, is how we thought about that before. So I was thinking about that. And this gets into the intuitiveness, I think, in this next paragraph. Sees in the dark, hears where there is no sound. In the deep dark, he alone sees light. In soundlessness, he alone perceives music. He can go down into the lowest of low places and find people. He can stand in the highest of high places and see meaning. He is in contact with all beings. Interesting how that non-dualness comes out. In contact with all beings. That which is not goes his way. That which moves is what he stands on. He stands on what moves. He doesn't make it move. He stands on what is moving.
It's one awesome dude.
But don't we see this in aspects that happen in our life where sometimes things just flow and this is observing life. This is the observing part. Great is small for him. Long is short for him. And all distances are near. In other words, he doesn't have problems. And the reason he doesn't is not because they're not problems, because the problems don't have him. He doesn't get twisted. He doesn't get disturbed, back to what we were quoting before,
Do you think he's single?
He's in contact with all beings, Marla.
Yeah, Marla.
I hear easy does it all throughout that part of this, but even before, I all things, without plan, he goes his way and all things follow him. A program of attraction, if I put good energy out in the universe, then I'm going to receive good energy back. If I put love out there, I'm going to get love in return. And if that's what I try to practice on a daily basis, then that's what's going to come to me, right? It's going to be reciprocated.
It's a mirror.
Yeah.
We just had this discussion in our morning Tao meeting about what you give out, you get back.
We did, yeah. We were quoting Henry Ford. Whether you think you can or you can't, you're right.
I like the sentence, in soundlessness, he alone perceives music. That's something that I've noticed. My daughter and I were just in this grocery store, and there was some song, the music was in the background, but all of a sudden I heard a different song, and I was literally dancing, walking down the aisle. And before, I would have never thought that was acceptable. Somebody might see me, somebody might judge me. But I was having a good time. I was having a good time with her. I was in the moment. I was having just being in the moment.
Or maybe it was subliminal placement.
Maybe. Whatever it was nice.
There's product advertising that only you could hear. Possibly
that's part of it too.
I was thinking about gratitude, and sometimes we get in situations that we think are unacceptable, but once we start finding gratitude in situations, we find out some things we thought were unacceptable or we're actually grateful for. I mean, we've all experienced that, I'm sure. Situations that we said, this is horrible. back to the 4:17, 4:18, that we don't know what's good for anyone. Don't know what's good for me. Don't know what's good for you. So I'm better off, not giving advice about anything because I don't know. Same kind of thing with this, maybe. That's how you might perceive light in darkness, or, sound in silence, or music in silence, something pleasant, not a noise, music, something pleasurable. Because it happens all the time. We get situations that we think are awful situations, and they end up being something good. And our lives are better after the circumstances are over than they were before.
No, I'm just thinking about the 9-step promises.
Yeah, exactly.
What are they?
What are the 9-step promises? Oh, well, if we are...
Since I've been in AA.
Okay, well, how about this? I have, is it okay if I just read them?
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we'll be amazed before we're halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I do like that a lot.
How about this in the last sentence? He says, great is small for him. Why didn't it say small is great for him? Looks like the better would be the small is, or maybe I'm overthinking that one.
It means it doesn't mean anything to him. Great doesn't mean.
It doesn't matter which it is.
Right.
He's not hunting great. He's not, yes.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything.
Right. Way to go, Marla. That's what I think too. That it's not like, the humble thing is something wonderful for you. No, it doesn't matter. He doesn't care because he's not wrapped up in those things. Yeah, it just is. And if it just is, there is nothing hard, difficult. It just is. Doesn't mean he doesn't have difficult situations. They're just not difficult to him because he accepts it for what it is. That's like resentments. There's not a difficult resentment if you know what to do with it.
Right. You can turn it into a gratitude.
You can, if you know how to surrender a resentment. Mm-hmm. I mean, some of them might take a little longer, but you do the same thing.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Some things take longer to cook.
But we know how to cook now.
We know how to cook, but some things, I put a lot of ingredients into the recipe and they take a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Years.
Eventually it's going to get done.
Exactly. Perhaps before I die, but long is short for him. I thought that said life is short for him. Long is short.
Perception.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about perception.
Mm-hmm.
Why in the middle of that would they drop the sentence, he is in contact with all beings? Why is it important that he's in contact? That's the only line that I see that is, I'm curious to what some other translations of that sentence would be. He is in contact with all beings. Is that he is concerned with all beings? Is it that
maybe it doesn't discriminate? Maybe he's available for all beings.
Someone must risk kindness for injury, like the 79th verse talks about. Yeah.
Well, right before that, it talks about he can go to the lowest of low places and the highest. So, yeah, I think it's exactly what Craig said. It doesn't matter. you know, young, old, rich, poor, small, big, you know, here, there.
If you look at it in terms of the Tao, the lowest is normally the valley where everything grows, and the highest is normally the mountains or the highest peaks.
I thought about the characteristics of water there.
Water.
The lowest of low places.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. He is so free of himself that he would blush to be in business. Man, that's freedom. That is freedom. And we can be on our way there. You know, I know I'm on my way when I don't take credit for things that I do at times. That's on the way to that. I still, Amy, on the 9 p.m. meeting, I still, when people, they mention it all the time, you know, how'd this meeting start? I'm sitting there going, sometimes I really want to say, by God, I started that meeting.
Yeah, I want to say that for you too. So don't think that you're definitely not the only one going, but bite your tongue.
You know, but it's so good when somebody else says something, especially when they don't say a guy from Georgia started. They say a couple of guys from Georgia. That even gets me more like, no, 2 guys didn't start it. 1 guy started it. But that is so far from this. He would be, you know, uncomfortable just people knowing that he was successful. You know, I mean, that's so far. I'm closer to that than I used to be, but you know, that's on in the future, I hope.
Do you think he would be blushing because of his humility?
Yes.
Compared to the value and the amount of attachment that everybody else puts on things.
Yes.
Do you think he would maybe be embarrassed for everybody else to think, you know, maybe we're putting far too much attachment on it? Does it really mean that? Does that one particular thing really mean that much to you, where you've got all this rest of life and the rest of the world to behold, and you're concentrating on that one little thing?
I don't know about all that. I think that it would be uncomfortable. What I'm saying is he is so humble that he would be uncomfortable, I think, with people giving him accolades, is the way I see that. I could be misreading it. There's a lot here. It's just another example of, and it all goes back to the stillness. The king of life finds the stillness, and it makes them free, inactive, and unknown. The opposite of what people want, you know. They may want freedom, but they certainly don't want to be inactive, and they certainly don't want to be unknown. There's some paradox there. I think inactive, not in that he does nothing, but he does maybe nothing selfishly or out of a selfish motive. Inactive in his ego. Yeah.
He comes out in majesty. Without forethought, he comes out in majesty.
We had one of those moments with the Fourth Dimensioners meeting when Derek suggested we call the meeting the Fourth Dimensioners. Everybody loved the name. Little did we know that within a couple of months, Stephen C. was going to suggest that we put it in intergroup. And when we did, being that our name's the Fourth Dimensioners, number 4 TH, when people look for a meeting, our meeting comes up first. And we never would have thought that through to do that. We're not that smart, but it worked perfectly. That may be one of those situations of without forethought, you know, something great happens. That's what I was thinking.
You're at 9 o'clock meeting.
Yeah, a 9 o'clock meeting is called the Fourth Dimensioners, and we, you know, now if we would have been marketing pros.
I mean, your AA meeting that you started. It's the same thing.
Exactly. And, you know, and we all liked the name, but none of us were, you know, so genius. It was hey, that would put us first on blah, blah. When anybody would search, we didn't even think about that. Things like that happen, though, I notice as well. Just stumble into things.
Isn't that amazing? I'm hoping to stumble into a nice rental property shortly.
It's interesting here too. It says all things follow him. He doesn't have to make things happen. They all follow him. And it starts with stillness. That's where this is in the stillness. Now, my Zen friends all believe that you find all of this in meditation. Every bit of it is from sitting on the mat.
Yeah.
If you have a problem, you go sit until you know the answer. How long? Well, it doesn't matter. You just stay as long as you need. I mean, if you ask the sensei about something, he might tell you a few things, but eventually he's going to say, just sit about it till you know the right answer. Is that not what they're saying here? Stillness?
Mm-hmm.
It's a way of getting there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not to the sitting on the mat thing. Okay. But I am, I can absolutely, and just told my sister yesterday, she's a nurse and she is facing the decision of whether or not to get the vaccine. And I said, I have learned when I don't know what to do, I don't do anything. The answers will come if my own house is in order, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when in doubt, buy time. I've picked up those things along the way. So I guess that's my version of sitting on the mat.
Exactly. We all have our version of that. I mean, we don't have to do it like whoever for it to work. We have to be really true to ourselves and see how God speaks to us, how we see these things. For Marla, it's yoga. I know that. And Craig walks.
He walks, he talks, he even speaks. He's falling asleep.
I very rarely listen.
Very rarely.
I hear. I very rarely listen. There's a big difference.
You're so easy to attack. You make it too easy.
That's because I've reached that level of enlightenment that I just am. I just am that easy to attack.
I don't really
going to be
that.
sick.
I'm just kibitzing with you, right?
Yeah, I know.
Can you say kibitzing with a Scottish accent?
Say what?
Kibitzing.
Kibitzing?
With a Scottish accent, though.
No.
No.
That's what I got Craig to do the first time I met him? I got him to do a Scotty imitation with the lithium crystal.
That was mean.
With what?
The crystals on the Star Trek, oh, Captain,
She can't take any more, Captain. She's gonna blow. This is
very first time I met him. I said, "Hey, can you do this for me?"
This is me going for an interview for a mastermind group, and the only question this crotchety old guy in Georgia asked is, "Can you do the Scotty impression from Star Trek?"
Okay, he's in. Any other thoughts on how deep is the Tao before we close for the day?
I do have one other thing because I kept thinking of this. Deep down in every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of God. It may be obscured by calamity, by pomp, by worship of other things, but in some form or other, it is there.
Amen to that.
That's also the place of surrender, though, right? Deep down, innermost self. That's where I'm going to surrender, and that's where I'm going to find humility. And then I can begin accepting things just as they are.
It's interesting. He says he finds he can go down to the lowest of low places and find people. Some correlation there. Mm-hmm. We get our help by helping someone else. Maybe we're just one big body in that we're helped by helping another person. And that's why it helps us. Maybe that's the reason that he's in contact with all beings.
Isn't that kind of what Dr. Bob and Bill did? Is that they wanted to, they pick people up off the streets, even if they didn't want to be picked up. Threw them over their shoulders.
Then they realized that didn't work. They stayed sober.
Yeah, they did.
But none of them got sober. And they realized, they said, we have to let alcohol convince people. And that they call alcohol the convincer.
Great convincer. Yeah.
Great convincer.
Great convincer, yeah.
Boy, is it ever.
And, this is the thing. I mean, I told someone not long ago, they said, well, I'm not sure. I said, well, go drink some more. Come back and see us. We'll be here.
Tell somebody what rock bottom is. You cannot tell somebody what rock bottom is.
That was like one of my, it was like one of my sponsees. I'd say somebody, one of my sponsees went back out drinking again. He's like, did you send them $20 just so we could have a really good time?
That's taking a little far, Craig.
Yeah, that's a little too far.
But there's some old timers in meetings that used to do that. Said, we'll spot you for your first one if you're running low on money and you think you need another drink.
That's not a good idea.
Well, we know it's alcohol that convinces us, though, Marla.
I've actually given money to people for alcohol.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy, but I understand how they feel. So, like, here, feel good, But it's not. I don't think it's a great idea. They're all my fave. I love all of these.
They're all my favorite.
Finding stillness, though, I think for me, remembering that all of these promises, because that second paragraph is really more the promises. Tao promises, really. If we want the thing that moves, if we want to stand on it, if we want the great to be small and the long, everything to work and, all those things, then we've got to find that stillness. Okay, guys, if there's nothing else, then y'all have a great week. See ya.
Thanks.
Hello, this is Buddy C. I wanted to make you aware of several recovery-related resources that I've posted in the episode description. These resources include a list of recovery podcasts, a free sober meditation app, daily recovery email, shared Google recovery calendars. Hope you put some of these resources to use and have a great week.
Thank you for listening to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends in recovery.